F1 is all about being first, making history, breaking records, taking risks to do things that most others can only dream of. At the 2005 Chinese Grand Prix in his home city of Shanghai, a 5-year-old Zhou Guanyu saw what it takes to be first.
Fernando Alonso, number 7 victory of the season!
And dreamt of doing it himself. It had never been done before. No Chinese driver had ever raced in Formula One. But after 17 years of upheaval, homesickness, loss and uncertainty, Zhou became the first.
I lost myself a little bit because I was like, I couldn't speak a word because I started in tears. It sounds pretty crazy to be the first one of my country because we have so many people back in my country, and I've been through this journey. It's very tough. It's like a very roller coaster ride. It's not the smoothest one. I was just very happy to be that person, able to represent them.
Welcome to F1 Beyond the Grid with me, Tom Clarkson. Zhou's F1 story is unique and epic. Before he was even a teenager, he swapped Shanghai for Sheffield, an industrial city in the north of England. He was thousands of miles away from home, but driven by a desire to be like his hero Fernando Alonso, he raced and won as he rose from karting to Formula 2. It was there that he learned what it means to lose a friend on the racetrack. And it was there that he proved to Alfa Romeo that he was ready for Formula 1. A history-making debut in Bahrain 2022 underlined that fact. China's first F1 driver and its first point scorer.
Yes, boys! Come on! Come on, guys! Oh, man!
He scored more points in Canada, a much-needed boost after a string of difficult races. But as you'll hear, Zhou knows all about overcoming difficulties. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Zhou, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you for your time. What are we, a third of the way through the season? Just how comfortable are you feeling now in the world of Formula One?
Yeah, to be honest, like every 2 weekends, I feel like I was able to make a step forward. And especially in Baku, I feel like even though it's first time driving on the straight in Formula One car and super difficult with the braking and the aero marginally, but I was just actually very happy. I made a big step up since the Friday. I was able to up the pace together with Valtteri, and then it just really helped us as a team to be moved forward. So yeah, I feel like very well settled in Formula One now, and actually can prove more myself. So yeah.
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, apart from first weekend, I think there was a lot of stress. But after that, everything else was just getting more used to it. And of course, when you know more people in the team, in the paddock, and then you just feel it's kind of a home. It's a little bit similar to when you spend more years in any other category. And you just feel like, very enjoyable and enjoy to go to every Grand Prix.
You've been racing for more than 10 years. I just want to elaborate a bit more on what it's like to be in this world in your first year. What makes F1 different to the other formulas?
I mean, yeah, firstly, it's basically the top of motorsports. It applies a lot of attention from everywhere in the world, like a lot of people following, watching you. Many of them are not maybe following other category you raced before, and they get know you much better in Formula One. And then apart from that, as a Formula One driver, there's a lot of things to take rather than just driving on track. You have to be focused a lot on other stuff, and you have to be basically a great person and also try to give everything you got with all the times and all the practice limitation you got. And we don't get much time on track, to be honest. 3 practice sessions and we go to qualify to give it everything we have in the car. But yeah, from my side, it's a completely different world in Formula One. Like either F2, F1 is only one step away from each, but when you actually reach the absolute top of this level, you just feel, your life, everything just changed massively. So yeah, it's great.
What about this side of it? So this side of it, there's obviously a lot more talking. Have you dealt with that okay?
Obviously, it's much more than I expected, but I have to say that's probably the first thing Valtteri said to me when he first saw me. He was like, Formula One is about maybe 60% of talking, 40% of driving. So I don't fully understand that by then, but yeah, after 1-2 race weekend, I actually, you start your weekend on Wednesday or Thursday, and then there's a lot of media. You're going through the questions again, maybe the same questions to try to answer that, and then, you don't get actually that much time on yourself. So you're always either in the engineer's room, meeting room, doing a debrief, or you'll be doing some activities with other people. So yeah, that side is pretty kept you busy, I have to say.
How many more engineers do you have now on your car compared to, let's say, Formula 2?
Yeah, I mean, Formula 2, we have basically 2 engineers. So one is your race engineer, one is the engineer who supports you. And in Formula 1, of course, you get around 8 engineers just working together on your side. And it's crazy. Like, the biggest difference I ever felt is that maybe in F2, it's like you can speak to the engineers, and it's very simple. They will be either on your left-hand side or right-hand side. And in Formula 1, you try to go to each different table, different seat position, try to talk with different subjects about driving or about your car. So it's get very busy, and at first it's not easy to adapting that because there's a lot of information I have to take this year, especially as a rookie. But yeah, it's obviously much better when you have more info, and it's always just helping you.
That's fascinating, isn't it? 8 people on your car, you are actually a manager as well as a driver, aren't you? You're having to manage all these different things on your car.
Yeah, I mean, 8 people is just at the track, and you get much more at home. And of course, it's obviously both cars as well. So yeah, it's like in Formula 1, the drivers have to take a lot of responsibility compared to especially other category, because everything you said, either in the car or outside the car in the briefing room, there's people at the track listen to, and the whole factory is there try to write down your feedback and try to improve for the next session. So yeah, you have to be very efficient and to know what makes you the struggle the most, and that's always probably the first key I learned. And I have to be just gain that confidence, and you can improve a lot. But yeah, it's a big difference, and I have to say it's not the easiest to be understanding or to be adapting straight away, and it takes a bit of time. But yeah, so far this part of the season, I feel like everything became more natural.
Do you enjoy the technical side of the sport?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's great because we are trying to chase milliseconds. Hundreds, 1/10 is already quite a big number for us as a Formula 1 driver. It could be a matter of if you're in Q3, in Q2, or you are dropped out in qualify. So it's crazy. Like we do all that, and we're only chasing. Look, if you're just looking at the time and compared to a normal person in their normal lifetime, about 1 second is nothing for normal person lifestyle. But yeah, for us it's like I loved all the technical side of it, because everything you try to get it perfect from beginning, and then it just keep you going. And every weekend the challenge sort of changes all the time. You have to face different or new challenges ahead, so you never know what's coming.
And as you get to Formula 1, it's one of the skills you need to be able to break down a second even more than you could in the junior formulas. That 1,000th of a second you just talked about. Can you actually feel that? Can you visualize that?
I mean, to actually feel that you can, but to visualize that is difficult, because obviously for us as a racing driver, we can feel, how the car generate or behave throughout the corner, and how your lap is, how good the lap is. And even though without looking at the actual live timing, you can actually figure out if this is a good lap or bad lap, just not looking at any lap time. But yeah, in general, it's obviously feeling that so sensitive with that little margin is pretty difficult. But yeah, it's probably just the cool side with this sport, or cool side with being a racing driver. With all that experience, you just literally you feel every movement of your chassis, your car, and you can just feel it. And it's also completely different corner by corners, and you always have to get the best configuration of yourself and the car. So yeah.
And physically, how are you finding the cars? There's a lot of talk of bouncing.
Yeah. Well, one thing I have to say is that after driving F2, it's pretty stiff car. I will never expect to driving something even more stiffer. And
this is?
This is stiffer. Obviously, last year F2 in general is stiffer. and with the bigger wheels it's making it even worse. And I drove the old car before in FP1, so it was very smooth ride, very nice ride. You can use more curb, better rides. And this year it's a big challenge for all of us. All the team try to get as much low as possible to gain downforce, but then in the same time we're all facing the bouncing, and the first few races has not been maybe the most newest track. We're going to a lot of old school or street city tracks, so the bouncing generate even more. And I remember Baku is a special one on the straight, and Monaco is something crazy. Like I never experienced so bouncing. Like some corners I even can't really see it properly, the corner, just have to go for it, and it's tough. I think that's probably the first thing. But then in the physical side of things, I think after 2 rounds everything was fine. I mean, neck is probably the key, but since Jeddah I feel like I have no issue on the neck. I can be holding up pretty well, so it's all good.
Have you had to do anything different with your training in terms of how you're doing your neck? And
yeah, I mean, the main focus, like once on the contract last year and throughout the winter, was just focus a lot on the shoulder and the neck. And of course with the endurance, because obviously Formula 1 is longer race distance than what I used to, and it's actually much more focus you have to put into it. And the other thing is the neck. It's quite difficult to imagine, but I remember my first time ever jumped to a Formula 1 car. My neck was literally gone. Next day I couldn't turn anywhere, and I have to turn my whole body for looking at just someone next to me. So I really know how much, how difficult it was to be a Formula 1 driver. So throughout these years I was, well enough to prepare myself, but of course this season or this winter is being main focus, just do a lot of neck work. And it's actually, came out pretty well, and I was maybe stronger than I expected, the neck.
have you got any secrets you can tell us? I remember David Coulthard telling me on this podcast that he used to watch Grand Prix lying down in different positions. He'd do the whole race with his neck at a funny angle just to strengthen it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different things to do. One is like basically you can just put your helmet on, but the helmet actually has, these weights, but the weights is like very thin paddings. So you can actually stick them on your helmet. So use a very old helmet or your karting helmet, and then you can just do quite a lot of exercise on that. Or you do a day of go-kart, but with that much more weight on the helmet just to generate this similar or more closer feedback in the G-force. And then of course there's a lot more other exercise, but a little bit more boring. And I remember all the time when I do a lot of neck, especially when you do it in the public gym. Like I did that in China in F2. Everybody think you're strange, right? Because like no one do their neck, right? They only do their either upper body, make them a strong man, or just do some endurance training. So I'll be there, just get like a weight band and hook it around my neck, doing something like that. Sometimes it's a bit strange, but yeah, I'm used to all that looks already, so people understand that now.
Whether you've already got a small business you're trying to build on, or you have a side hustle selling your merchandise that you dream of making into a success one day, Shopify is the team you want on your side. It's the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business, because Shopify makes it simple for anyone to sell anywhere, from in-person point of sale to online through your website and social media channels like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. You don't even need any skills in design or coding to get started. Anyone can do it. With a few easy steps, Shopify will help you tailor your online store and craft the look you're after, find new customers, and scale up your small business to turn it into a money-making success. It even removes the guesswork from marketing your business thanks to built-in tools that help you create, execute, and analyze your online marketing campaigns. Ever heard of Gymshark or Huel? They're both businesses that have found success with Shopify. Every day, a new seller makes their first sale with Shopify, and you can join them. Start selling today with Shopify for free and make that business idea a reality. This is Possibility powered by Shopify, and thanks to their 24/7 support, you can count on help every step of the way. Sign up for a free 14-day trial at shopify.co.uk/grid, all lowercase. Go to shopify.co.uk/grid right now to grow your business today. Shopify.co.uk/grid. What about the other drivers on the grid? Is the atmosphere more highly charged among you than it is in Formula 2, Formula 3?
Yeah, I mean, maybe half of the grid, I know them already from either younger single-seaters racing together, or we spent a team in the same team in the past. So yeah, it's pretty insane to say like how Formula One driver, obviously, when you look outside, they try to like race, compete each other so hard, aggressively and fairly. But then I really felt that in like Saudi Arabia, or that when people all sit down together, as a group, we really try to like help the Formula One, the sports, to growing up or became better and better. So it was a big surprise, because things like that we never done in any other category in my life, in either juniors or senior category. So it's crazy to see like everybody are just working as one off track, just try to help the best for every single different involvement. So yeah, this is something probably maybe was a little bit more shock to see, because I don't expect when I see people try to saying bad words about each other and doing that off track on TV, and first time feeling that they actually works together as one. So it's very cool to obviously be one of the 20 drivers there and try to always thinking about the future, what's bringing is better for us, better for the drivers coming up to the categories.
So Latifi, Schumacher, Tsunoda, obviously you knew them before, but what about the older, more established guys? How have they been welcoming to you?
Yeah, everyone knows I know Alonso, Ricciardo for a long time, and because we was in the same basically team in the past, and I was obviously the academy driver. And then probably more like people like Sebastian or Lewis is some people that I never spoke in the past, and everybody is quite warm, welcoming, and especially I think in Bahrain was the first time that everybody actually get to properly see each other, have a chat with all the drivers. So yeah, it's cool obviously to have all these people around still, because I definitely don't expect to be racing with a few of the very experienced drivers, because it's something, I remember my first race I watched, they was there racing and they're still here racing. So it's actually a special feeling, but really enjoy obviously off track and on track battle together.
You've just made a reference to Fernando Alonso, haven't you? For people who don't know, can you just tell us the story about when you first saw him race?
That was basically 2004, and that day I have to say I didn't know anything about motorsports, so I was just a fan in general. But I saw his race, and I just think he was a very good driver, and I had that dream in my mind that maybe one day I want to be like him, a Formula One driver. And then the second year when the Chinese Grand Prix happened, obviously I started to be a bit more understanding about motorsports, and I was holding his flag. Everybody saw that picture on social, and
of course that was 2005 Chinese Grand Prix, which he won.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a special year, because I was supporting him and the good driver I support who won the race and won the championship as well. So
why Fernando? I've got to ask you that, because back then there was a man called Michael Schumacher racing, and actually other drivers on the grid. Alex Albon, massive Michael Schumacher fan. What was it about Fernando for you?
Because for me, I'm a pretty unique person, and I don't really like to, obviously, firstly to just follow whatever people thinks or whatever the whole majority of people support. I want to follow more like my heart. And by then I feel because Michael was a legend for everyone, for us in China, he has so much fan base, and then for a driver like Fernando, try to compete with him or try to beat him on track, it wasn't an easy thing. And for me as a kid, I just feel this guy is something special, to able to be Michael is you have to be quite good. And then looking at also just following up his career when I was very young in karting, I always can do or explore much more than his full car potential. Is something I want to be maybe like that. So it's always nice to see her drive very aggressive on track as well, one of the best first lap or starters in Formula One history. So he have a lot of these different type of skills that Fernando has. So I just feel I want to support him.
You were what, 5 or 6 back then at the Chinese Grand Prix supporting him. So how weird is it now to be racing him on track and to have actually been a sort of teammate of him?
I mean,
in previous years when you were, of course, part of the Renault Young
yeah,
Driver.
it's a quite like a strange or weird feeling, to be fair, because the first time I knew him, like we was together testing in like private days back in Alpine, and then the following year, that's when he joined went back to Formula One. I was able to do drive the FP1 in Austria and in his car. So that was my first FP1 attempt, or the only one from last year. So it was a very special moment, and it's something that I will never, think about that what happened one day. And especially like now to be racing against him on the same grid, because Alpine is one of like the main competitors, or the team where battle for this very tight midfield battle. So like the first race in Bahrain, it was like always something quite special when you heard it on the radio.
Joe, the front you have Alonso.
We was fighting for that last point until the end of the race. So that was a special moment. Now, like, I remember the big difference that when I heard on the radio at the very beginning, when first time in FP1, all these legend names like Hamilton, Verstappen, Alonso, and then compared to now it's like you just feel it's like another driver. But then back then it's like very special, and to see them go past, I think it's difficult to explain the actual feeling inside yourself, but it's just something that you feel like these drivers are the one that you growing up always watching them, and then you are together racing.
And in that FP1 session that you did in Austria last year in Fernando's car, how helpful was he?
Oh, very. We did a track walk even together. I think that's the first thing.
Hang on. He made a big thing last year about him not doing track walks. You persuaded him to do a track walk.
I don't know, but he actually, because I know, a lot of drivers, they don't do track walks. They don't like to do track walks. And I was surprised because I didn't know he was doing a track walk until Thursday. And he was like, oh, I'm coming for a track walk with you. And not even just that, he was like actually telling me all these little tricks or what he's experienced from the past, and that was very
helpful was that? What was he picking out on the track walk?
Yeah, it's more like just the driving line and the curb usage, and how he think I should approach this session, because any drivers has their first time, and he obviously after all this experience, he was able to just tell me about what I should do, and then to make the minimum mistakes and maximum potential, basically. So it was very helpful, especially on just the lines, because the way you drive F1 car to other categories is quite a bit different. So it was a very successful session. I kept his car on track, no damage. I think that was something also in my mind. I want to be quick, show myself, because I was coming from F2 and had a chance maybe fighting for the seat. And then as well, I want to be not making any errors, because it's very easy to do that in tracks like these, high-speed corners. So overall it was a very smooth day. So he was very proud of me after. So
well, and there's a lovely moment, I think, just after you've got out of the car, where you're looking at each other and you can see he's smiling, and you've still got your helmet on the picture. I'm thinking of, but
exactly.
Obviously you're smiling. There's a real sort of connection between the two of you.
Yeah, exactly. It just shows how much he was just helping me, and it was just an amazing day. It was like one of the day I will never forget to the date. But
well, how important was that FP1 session for you in terms of, what was it? It was 29 laps. You ended up just half a second behind.
Yeah, I was P14.
P14, just half a second behind Ocon. Just how important was that day for you personally? And what did it confirm in your mind?
It was the confidence. I think that's the biggest thing, was just in my mind, because I done a few days of testing, before that in other tracks throughout the year, but then you never know. You don't have a reference, to follow, and you never know what are you against the current F1 drivers. So that day was a very special day, because it's like first time driving these new cars for me, the new car of the year, and then to be able to, one practice session, 1 hour time, you don't have much. You have basically 3 outings, 3 little sessions adding together. So I was able just to build up and then end up very closely. It just gave me a big confidence. Also, it's more like about other people in the paddock who watching you, thinking, actually knows you is the first time for you, and then you actually speed is there with your teammate. So not just that, because I was half second off with medium tire, he was soft. So that just gave me even more like confident that if I continue walking like that way, I can be the same speed as them.
Was that the moment when the Formula One dream started to take reality in terms of behind the scenes, the conversation started with Alfa Romeo? Was that the moment?
I mean, that's one of the moments. Of course, the moment starts a bit earlier than that, but that was probably one of the most important dates in terms of, just to get the guys around the paddock to know you better and to see actually what's your performance like on track. So yeah, that was definitely an important day, and they gave me more opportunities for my F1 dream.
Can we expand now on your journey to Formula One? Because so much of your story is extraordinary. You moved to England before you were even a teenager. But can we start with life in Shanghai and how you got into racing? I mean, where did your passion for motorsport come from?
Obviously, it's definitely coming from myself, because our family is not a motorsports family. We don't have any previous racing drivers. But yeah, it's when I was a little kid, I always, like, all the birthday gift I wanted was just car toys. So I remember when I was a kid, I was always playing on the sofa with little cars, and have that imagination of like I'm actually like kind of like a a commentator commenting the race. But then it was a special moment, and then obviously my family saw me have that love in cars, so they took me to the indoor go-kart track for the first time, and I wasn't in the driving position. I was too scared to be driving myself, so I was in the two-seated go-kart on the back seat.
How old are you at this moment?
Probably 6. And
so who was driving?
My dad. So.
Dad was driving, okay.
And I didn't know where I was. My eyes was fully closed the whole 10-minute session, so I remember that day pretty well to the date. And yeah.
But wanted to go back again, obviously.
Was actually I wanted to go home. No lie, because you can ask my family, and yeah, I was too scared. I feel like I'm not going to drive it myself, and it's too fast, and you're sliding, drifting, it's crazy. Never drove a go-kart in my life before, so I was going to go home, but then it was like, you're here, why don't you just try one time at least, and if you're scared, we don't come again. And then yeah, then the moment I tried it, I absolutely loved it. So I was like,
and that was it, no looking back. Because what else were you into at the time? I mean, was this Kobe Bryant? Was this basketball for you? Had that happened yet, or was racing your first sporting passion?
It was actually the first kind of sporting passion, because before that I like football, but like, as a kid, a boy, you like football, these sports, the sports you play at school, you like them, and I'm quite like a sporty person since very young. So yeah, the actual sports maybe I was thinking to do it was Formula One or motorsports in general, but before that there was nothing maybe really I was practicing or doing a lot of time seeing.
Tell me about the karting scene in Shanghai at the time. How big was it? What was the standard like?
Yeah, it was pretty good back then, but now it's much better. But back then, we have a reasonably a big like basement of people completing in the Chinese karting championship, and yeah, from my side, it was quite special, because like you arrive there, the level for me back then was quite high up, because I was very, very young when arriving to the category I raced back then. So basically the first year I finished top 3, it was never expected. And then second year I won, and then I started winning every year.
Yeah,
so
you cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean actually I did, because 2010 is the year actually before I decided to move out to UK. There was a round in the championship. I won all that, and still holding the record for that. So yeah, it wasn't easy, but yeah, in general, when I basically moved to UK, I really felt a big difference, because back then it was challenge for me, but I able to came on top. But then yeah, in UK I was only able to arrive just P10 outside top 10. So it's pretty like a difficult moment for a young teenager, because you're like winning everything, having champion every race, and then you can't get into top 10. So it really felt like there's a long way to go.
Has the karting scene in Shanghai subsequently taken off? I mean, if you were starting your journey now, would you have needed to come to England, or is there now the infrastructure in China for young guys coming through?
You still have to come to Europe because the motorsports background history in general, we are a lot behind. So that means the level of the drivers are much lower. And I think also the other thing is that we have no, for example, Formula One driver that can guide you around or has an academy who help young drivers. So you have to go with the most professional ones when you are young. So yeah, I think still coming to Europe, that's my definitely absolutely 100% recommend.
This podcast is sponsored by Athletic Greens. I started taking AG1 a few weeks ago because I wanted a great tasting multivitamin that would help give me more energy, sharpen my immune system, and that I could easily make part of my routine while I'm traveling between races. Taking AG1 is a small micro habit with big benefits. It supports better sleep quality and recovery, gut health, your immune system, your nervous system, focus, and aging. In fact, Athletic Greens was created when the founder experienced gut health issues and ended up on a complicated supplement routine to recover. It cost him $100 a day. There had to be a better way. And AG1 is one of the most nutrient-dense green powders I've tried. With just one scoop, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food-sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. It's cheaper than getting all of the different supplements yourself, and it's lifestyle-friendly, whether you're vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. By taking AG1 in the morning, I found it a great way to get my hydration up first thing, while giving me steadier energy levels throughout the day, and my mental clarity is through the roof. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day, and that's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements to look after your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/F1BTG. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/F1BTG to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Zhou, let's discuss the moment now where you say, okay, I want to be a professional racing driver. I want to get to Formula One. How did you land on England, and why England and not France, Germany, Italy?
Yeah, because England, from what we saw, is that there's a lot like Formula One drivers coming from British nationality. So it was something quite clear for us, and also the language, even though I wasn't good or quite bad, but then it still is probably the only language I know back then, apart from Chinese. So kind of the communicating ways and also, the level is pretty high. So it was quite clear for us just to move to England. And obviously, normal people, when you go to England, you move to big cities. I went to North Sheffield. So
why Sheffield? Because Motorsport Valley in the UK, if you'd said to me, Oxford or Milton Keynes, you've got lots of Formula One teams around there, lots of junior racing teams around there. Less so Sheffield.
Because my racing team in go-kart was based in Sheffield. So it's basically the Tony Kart team. It's called Strawberry Racing because Strawberry Racing is their kind of nickname, because strawberry is very famous fruit for that city in Sheffield. So, and it's basically that's the team I went for, and they was one of the best team. Russell was racing with them in very old age. You can ask him. And
do you remember George from back then?
Yes, because while first time there, I watched a lot old video clips, and that was he became he was I don't know where he was, maybe just about to move into doing all this OKF racing, but before that he was in UK base, and I remember that back then, and he was still doing all this junior category to go to Formula One as well. So basically we all kind of started in the same team, and it's pretty nice to see it now. So.
And Zhou, how tough were those years for you? I mean, how homesick did you get? how much can you tell me just about the setup in terms of who you were living with? And
It's obviously still, I feel quite a lot homesick, like just now. But yeah, back then was difficult. It's more like you don't have many friends when you started this journey, because you move to a city that's there's not a lot of people and everybody is like quite new to you, and then you have to be going to school, try to understand what the class is saying, because to be the English or the language is one of the difficult part for the beginning, to be understanding what other people are saying. And then you always basically doing practice or schoolwork, or you just racing. So there's only three things you do when you live there, and for a young boy back then was pretty tough, because you don't have time for other things. But obviously racing is something I love, I enjoy the most. But yeah, still you kind of lose quite a lot of friends, especially back home in China, like, because you don't go back often to see them anymore. But yeah, still by then I think I had more times to going back than now.
and who were you living with? Were you living with the racing team, or?
I was actually, my mom was living with me together, because I was age of 11, 12. But then I spent basically most of my weekend with the racing team. That's how I able to improve my English as well. So
Hang on a minute, Joey, hang on. Mechanics English. Are you good at swear words? That's all everyone
I was very good, but then I was able to calm it down the last few years, because I think with other teams then that's probably the first thing I learned the best. It's very easy to learn the swear words with the mechanics. Yeah.
And were there any? I mean, it's so easy to look back now. You've made it to Formula One, and you're established in this world. But were there dark moments back then where you felt, I've made this huge sacrifice, and for whatever reason it's not happening? And did you almost have to sort of go back to Shanghai a few times? How close did it get to the dream ending?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say in karting days, not too bad. It's more like it's like when you're going up, climbing up to the level of single seaters, because in basically the karting days it's quite straightforward, and I was able actually to do pretty well after 1 year of practicing all that. But yeah, there was times in karting days that people crashing you out, pushing you off on purpose, because I was basically the only Chinese face around the paddock. You get kind of like a little bit bullied, with other more important or more like experienced drivers, because that's karting. There's a lot bumper racing together, so it's tough. But then it wasn't something special. I was able to earn my respect quite early by doing well on track. And it's more like the recent years, maybe especially like 2 years ago in 2020 in Formula 2, because it's like you are very close to the dream. But then I think when you're young, you think the dream is very real or very easy to reach. But then the older you get, the more mature you get, you realize how difficult just to have a door open for you to get to in F1. Because firstly I was thinking, okay, you get the super license points and then you'll be in F1. But then after I got that super license point, I really felt like there's other things have to be all around in the perfect timing, and to have a seat for you. And that's very tough, because you have to managing yourself quite difficultly, because there's your competitors or other people try to take you down from it, but then you have to just really use yourself and use your team, try to give myself the maximum I have every race weekend and not doing any mistakes. And then the chance became maybe 20-50%, and it's tough. I remember there's one time I felt like I went back home for maybe just 5 days, not telling anyone, like no one knows from outside the world apart from our family. I just go there and went back just for like fully relaxed, like recharge, let's say. But it's difficult times.
It's an incredible story, and Mum still comes to races, doesn't she? She's at most of the Grand Prix now.
I mean, her plan was to come to the first race, and I kind of got stuck here because
loves it.
Yeah, Shanghai got into lockdown, and
Oh, I see. That's why. As much as anything.
She was going to go just to watch a few European races, and then because it's nice to see, and I think my dad is more than exciting to come here because he haven't had the chance yet. Because my like kind of sister is still going to school there. They cannot both to be here, and one of them have to take care of my sister. So hopefully they can come. I'm sure they will come like during the next few months.
You then race in Formula 4, Formula 3, Formula 2. One of the things that really strikes me about your junior career is that you were very loyal to your teams. You were effectively Prema and UNI Virtuosi. Was that an intentional thing to remain loyal and stay with the same group? Or was it just circumstance that saw you end up with those teams for so long?
It's kind of, at the beginning, obviously with Prema, it was because I was with Ferrari Driver Academy and they have the link, all the junior drivers there. And then there was one of the best team out there. So I was just with them. Then with Virtuoso, it's kind of like more from my side together with Renault that we think that was a team we have a good chance of it. And then of course, we felt like when you started with them, when you build up kind of this relationship together with you and your engineer, then if you keep swapping teams, you might have a very good benefit and so you might be to be very good the next year. But then it could be a chance of it could be difficult to adapting with either the car or with the people around. So we thought, it's a British team. Is that where I'm coming from at the very first place? And I like the way they work. And they are a very strong team in the past. So I just stuck with them in 2019. And then since then, we felt like we can do something quite well, in the coming up years. So I think it was, it was a very good choice in general.
You mentioned the Ferrari Driver Academy, and then you swap to the Renault Young Driver Academy. Is it another academy? But what made you swap?
Yeah, it's actually it's a tough option because obviously Ferrari is when you have that badge, it's something special, right? And then that year is basically the next year will be my first year in F2, and for my side that is the year I want to really to put myself into maybe more involved with Formula 1 teams, and it was clear that Renault was able to offer me, a deal, has a lot of testing program, a lot more involved either in the Grand Prix weekend or in the debriefs of the current F1 drivers. So for me, that was just the right decision I made. So I'm quite glad with that decision. It was a tough period because when you want to switch, you have to change quite a bit. And it was quite good in general because it just prepared me well enough in 2019. Then last 2021 I was able to step in the car and to either have that opportunity to step in the car, then also to have an opportunity for my future. But I think otherwise I don't know if I had an FP1 last year or not. So I think that was a very good decision.
And of course through Renault you met Daniel Ricciardo, friendly guy.
Yep, very funny guy. So always joking about things, and it was a good team play. And
there was also a really good crew of you, part of that Renault Academy. And there's one guy I wanted to talk to you about was Anthoine Hubert. He was your teammate on the program. And how tough was Spa 2019 for you? Yeah,
it was a very dark weekend for the whole motorsports, especially for us, because it's even more the week before. We spent 2 weeks in France, doing a cycling trip. I can't remember where it was.
So you were doing a stage of the Tour de France?
Yeah, kind of a little stage of that. It's 8 days. We travel different places, and then a total of 690 kilometers.
You and Anthoine were doing that together?
There, all the academy drives. So I was there. And also I was lucky I was there. And we shared a room most of the time because we was a very good friend together. Obviously, we are always compete each other in F2 also as well that year. So it was pretty difficult to accept when that happened because I was literally maybe 2-3 cars ahead of that queue, and then I saw the guy or two behind me literally lost control because I saw a car went very far into a rouge. Then it was red flag. So I don't know what's happening until we stopped. So I was quite shocked to hear what happened. But then, more into maybe 20 minutes later, and I heard a story of, he was pretty much, not here anymore. So I was very shocked, and it was difficult to race. And I think F2 did a good job to stop that race. But it's very sad to lose him like that. And it's the first time for me to experience something like that. It's crazy. Did you question your own participation in motorsport? To be honest, I didn't, because we all know we have like a chance of risk when we put the helmet down and sit in the car. But yeah, I think by then I just feel maybe something we could definitely change to make that crashing or that happen not to be there anymore, because I feel like this corner always have to be changed from all this experience. And yeah, it's for myself, I wasn't really doubt of if I should not continue or not, because I feel like that was my dream. We as a family, we put so much effort into it. There's no way I would be backing out from it, because we're doing something we love, every driver, and we just love to be fighting together in this kind of ton of speed. So yeah,
I'm sure he'd want you to continue anyway.
yeah, exactly. It was nice to also has we wore his helmet in Sochi, the next race coming up. So it was a very special moment, because the whole helmet was that year's current helmet with his name on it. So it was just something to rest in peace. And yeah.
And at the end of the year, you picked up the Anthoine Hubert award for top rookie. That must have been a special moment.
Yeah, that's a very special moment, because the rookie was named after him. So and the first year to have the rookie trophy, so to be the first one to take that, it was a very special moment. Also, I remember his brother gave me that trophy, so it's just something. This trophy is back in my office in China, together with his helmet next to it, and yeah, it's just keep me in memory of amazing driver and great friend.
Guanyu Zhou, the Chinese driver heading to Formula One, will see the checkered flag first and celebrate another victory in FIA Formula 2, Formula One bound Guanyu Zhou.
Yeehaw! Thank you for your hard work.
So Formula 2 works out. You get the drive in Formula 1. Can you remember where you were when you were first informed? Was it Fred Vasseur who made the call to you? What happened?
My manager made the call to me, and I was actually at my house, 5 p.m. at my house, and yeah, I heard that phone call, because it was very tough, because basically there was only one seat in Alfa Romeo from Silverstone period, and it was like 10 people or how many people fighting for the 10 drivers, and then obviously the numbers get reduced throughout the time being gone. And yeah, it was, I never know if I had a chance, but then it's not more or less than the others. We are equally based. So yeah, when I finally heard that, it was like kind of a big settled down, big like breath back. And I was actually, I lost myself a little bit, because I was like, I couldn't speak a word, because I sat in tears, because I remember that day was quite special. I was luckily at my house, because otherwise it looks very strange if I'm outside in a public place. And so yeah, it was back then when you heard you're a Formula 1 driver, it's just Formula 1 driver, this two simple word is very special for all of us as a young drivers, because that's a dream, and the dream is not something we set and it's very easy to do, and something is you have to
How was the news received back home in China?
I mean, everybody was asking me 1 week, 2 weeks before, am I going to get it? And then the best thing I think about it was that when I know that I was, the deal was done, I was confirmed for next season, I can't tell anyone apart from my family, and obviously my family knows. But yeah, it was difficult, because I was so happy, exciting, but then everybody was just, they don't know if I was making it. So like my very close friend will just text me every day, and I can't give him an answer because I cannot do that. And so yeah, it's everybody went quite crazy back then when that happened, because I don't know how many years it's been, and it's the first driver, and it's big moment for the Chinese motorsports.
It's massive. The first Chinese Formula 1 driver is sat in front of me now. It's a historic moment, and the magnitude of that must have made an impact on you and everyone on back home.
Yeah, exactly. Just it sounds pretty crazy to be the first one of my country, because we have so many people back in my country, and then it's obviously I've been through this journey. It's very tough. It's like a very roller coaster ride. It's not the smoothest one, but I was just very happy to be that person able to standing out for my home to be represent them, and hopefully one day the Grand Prix will happen. But
how much do you want the Grand Prix now?
Like so badly because
it'll be a sellout.
It's gonna be special because last time I was there, it was the last Grand Prix 2019. I was still F2 driver, but by then people was crazy about it because I don't know. Were you there in 2019?
Yeah.
You was, right?
Yeah.
I was doing a Renault E20 demonstration before the Grand Prix. So when I stopped, put my helmet down and sat on the top of the cockpit, and the whole grandstand was actually screaming. And by then I was only my second race of F2 finished, so not many people know. And by now I think it'll be completely crazy. So
well, let's hope we get back to Shanghai next year. Are you selling lots of merch? Is it on that level? Is it working out?
Well, I mean, I saw some merch in the past in F2 times, but then when I was in F1, we are planning to have some merch to be announced, but especially obviously the first one will be the mini helmets of my this year's season's helmet. And we haven't really focused on that yet, but there will be definitely a lot coming because I know everybody are asking me for merchandise, and I'm very excited to have all this coming up. But it's quite tough to manage it all together in the same time, but will be a lot more coming.
And of course, it's going to have the number 24 on it. I asked you about Kobe Bryant earlier. At what point did he come onto your radar?
It was in around when I was probably about 8 years old. So I was school still back in Shanghai, because by then we like to. In China, it's different. Our uniform is not blazer with shirt, with normal shoes. We are just sports shoes, and then with a sports outfit. That's our normal uniform. It's completely different.
So don't tell me you turn up in a Lakers outfit every day, right?
Not Lakers outfit. We have our school uniform, but it's a sports one instead of the formal one. So I do turn up with Kobe shoes every day. But it's basically that's all come together. He was a big thing, a big sports kind of legend back home. So I was big fan of him since very young. So I don't play too much basketball. I play better in football. I have to say I'm much better in football. But then I love more watching basketball because the game is so intense. And then he was the kind of a guy I was always supporting, watching him playing. So when I was young, even though I was in UK, I would still try to watch his game. So it's a big thing for me, and it's more I choose the number because of him, but also my favorite number is gone. So I have kind of limited choice, but then I feel I need something that give me the energy in F1. So that was it.
How have you been caring for yourself lately? Whether it's hitting the gym or going on evening strolls or squeezing in a midday nap, self-care shouldn't be a second thought. Make it part of your daily routine. Calm is the #1 mental wellness app that helps give you the tools that you need to improve the way you feel. If you're looking to reduce your stress and anxiety or even tackle insomnia, Calm's guided meditations can help you do exactly that. And they've got a huge collection of imaginative sleep stories for both adults and kids that can help you drift off naturally as well. If you've never tried meditation before, don't worry. All you need to do is download the app, get comfortable, and the rest will come naturally. In as little as 10 minutes a day, you can develop a meditation practice that fits your schedule and gives you the space to relax both your body and your mind. It's easily become a small part of my daily routine and one that makes a huge difference to my overall well-being, and it could do the same for you. For listeners of the show, Calm is offering an exclusive offer of 40% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/grid. Go to calm.com/grid for 40% off unlimited access to Calm's entire library. That's calm.com/grid. So let's bring it right up to the present. We've discussed Alonso. Let's talk about Sauber and Alfa Romeo. First of all, Valtteri, what kind of a teammate is he?
Oh, very great teammate, and it's so nice. It's probably one of the nicest teammates I worked the last time I have a teammate that nice is probably Callum. It's like, yeah, obviously Valtteri is it's great because with all his experience and he was able just to not just answering all the questions. I maybe have a question mark to him. It's more like sometimes he was even asking me like, how do you feel? Do you have something you want to know even more about it? And I remember that very well. Like in Bahrain, already said before 10 minutes before the pit lane open, before we put the helmet on, he was actually asking me, do you have anything? Because he knew how nervous I was. It's your debut in Formula One. And since then, we've been walking along so well together. And also nice, we have a very similar driving style. So the feedback of the car, we always quite equally matched. So for the direction of the team, it's very great for development. And yeah, so far it's been very good. And we always try to, maximize all the potential.
What's the best bit of advice he's given you?
It's about just the beginning of the first ever Grand Prix in Bahrain, because he said to me like, so this is your first qualify session, and then you have to just take it step by step. Don't think about like you have to give it everything your first try. If you can't do it, you still have another try to do it. It just kind of calmed me down. And also like he says stuff about, for example, Baku. He was like, even though it's like halfway, like a quarter way for the season, he was like, here you have to just go to the finish. It's the first thing you need to do in Baku. That's before the race weekend even started. He was like, just go to the finish. You never know where you will finish. So it's like things like that just very motivate myself and just help me a lot to be, became better.
And he's been very generous in his praise of you as well. After Baku, he was saying that you were in a different league, he said, on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, was obviously, we have to say what's obviously his biggest struggle in Baku. But yeah, I was able to, have to say, on Friday, matching more his pace. I think everyone is happy to see, also him, because then we really can push each other to finding this final few attempts where we have our full potential in the car. But yeah, I think last weekend obviously was a very strong performance for me, and everybody's here, and just very happy to be continue working that way. But then wouldn't be there obviously without his help, and I think we are very good, like a matched teammate.
Has he got you drinking some of his coffee?
Yeah, he did. I was in Imola, was the first time I tried his like homemade coffee. He was in the motorhome, so it was. Were
you just being polite, or did you genuinely want to try?
I actually genuinely want to try because I don't drink coffee before this year. I never drank any coffee before arriving at F1. But then with all these early mornings, I have to deal, not on track, but like media activities and all the other things. But yeah, I have to stay awake, and that's the thing. Yeah, I do one also before some races, some qualify session, just to help me to be set to myself. So yeah, I love coffee quite a lot now, but I'm not in the level of Valtteri, nowhere near. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else is, quite frankly.
My engineers.
Oh, do they drink a lot? Is it?
About 12 coffee.
12 coffee a day? 12
minimum,
coffees a day?
Minimum. Not joking. You spend one day in Alfa Romeo next to my engine, you will see.
Everyone's shaking. They're so wired by the caffeine.
I don't know.
And what about back in Hinwil? How much time are you spending with the team?
A lot. Like last year, the moment I finished Abu Dhabi, so the first time meeting up one day with the team, and then I was straight back to factory for the simulator until one day before Christmas. And then, yeah, beginning of this season also one day very early, just to try to, feel the new car, try to learn and try to get involved with all the teams in the factory, just to spend more time with them. And yeah, it's obviously it paid out pretty well. Like if you look the beginning of the season, how we was able to perform, and it was a big surprise for I think everyone in the world watching Formula One. And also for myself, it just it's just a big confident build up since the beginning. So I'm just quite happy with all this extra effort I was able to put in the factory behind the scenes, and you can see it just paying off very well.
Did you nip off skiing over the winter?
Skiing?
Yeah.
I don't do.
You don't do? Are you not allowed to?
I don't know if but I think we don't allow this, kind of dangerous, but I don't skiing because
it's probably
Shanghai
sensible.
We don't have snow. Every 10 years we have one little snow, so it's not famous.
It's probably very sensible because if you were into skiing, I think you do less work because you just always half an hour from Hinwil you can be in the mountains.
Yeah, I know. They love to go there.
Well, let's throw it forward. I'd like to think Silverstone is something of a home Grand Prix for you. given that there's no Chinese Grand Prix. Do you see it like that at all?
Yeah, I mean, Silverstone is a place kind of like I feel very much home because I'm living in UK. But I think honestly this year the home Grand Prix will be Singapore because that will be, I think, a lot of Chinese people. Like Melbourne, I feel like it was a home Grand Prix for me because like I don't know, I have so many people in that city. It was crazy. Like even in the hotel in the paddock. So yeah, Silverstone coming up, I'm definitely very exciting for British.
I mean, at least it's a track you know very well, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's being, normally that's a race that a lot of people coming watching me from my family or from my friends. So it's a super unique track to be driving. So yeah, I always love. It was one of my favorite race in Formula 2. So yeah.
You always went well there. Okay, Singapore later in the year, it's going to be hot, but just overall, what are your ambitions for the remainder of this first season?
I mean, from my side, I think I will be just keep working, build it up from here. And I feel like we are now in a very good, like kind of a starting range now. Like Baku was a big step up for myself performance, like from Friday. So we're not a session behind because of the, I know Baku, but still it's like just I was able to be straight away on it. I think we just have to take that as a reference and to keep doing that, and obviously to be closing the gap together with Valtteri is always a good thing, and then that just really can help me going forward. But then the other thing is that I really want to have a good Sunday because we haven't had one in the last 4 races, and especially with the DNFs, it's pretty frustrating. And I just hope that we can get the problem fixed, and then I'm sure the results will come. We need to just fix it, and we have the speed, we have the potential.
Get back in the points. Zhou, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been wonderful to chat. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
Zhou is a very engaging guy, isn't he? And that was a wonderful chat. I loved hearing his story, and the sacrifices he's made in pursuit of his dream are as big as any driver on the grid. And I find it mad to think that his father still hasn't seen him race a Formula 1 car in the flesh. Let's hope that changes soon, and let's hope that we get a Chinese Grand Prix back on the calendar next year. The fans will go absolutely mad for Zhou if that happens. Zhou, many thanks for your time. It was a great conversation. Please remember to send in your thoughts and stories about Zhou. Unlike his dad, have you seen him race in the flesh this year? Please send in what you've got to me at Tom Clarkson F1 on Twitter, or use the hashtag F1BeyondTheGrid. Which brings me on to what you sent in about Thierry Boutsen after last week's show. There's a lot of love out there for Thierry, isn't there? Let's start with this from Matt. I was 16 in 1989, he says, and I went to the Canadian Grand Prix with my dad in the torrential rain. I was wearing my Williams jacket, which I had Thierry's name embroidered on. Every week I await with great excitement for your podcast, with the hope that we would hear from Thierry. You've made for one happy fan. Well, Matt, it makes me very happy if you're very happy, and it certainly was great to hear from Thierry, who I thought was in very good form. Now, how about this from Carl Lawrence? Very insightful conversation with Thierry, he says. It was wonderful to hear him recall racing alongside Stefan Beloff, who would no doubt have challenged for the World Championship had he not been lost to us. Well, Carl, I loved hearing about that as well, and it's crazy to think that Thierry was Stefan's teammate in sports cars, but that did at least mean he could provide us with great insights about Stefan Beloff. And let's end with this from Triangle123. Fantastic, says Triangle. Thierry was one of my favourite ever Formula 1 drivers. I came to Formula 1 in the late 80s, early 90s, and I had a soft spot for Thierry when he was dumped by Williams and had to join Ligier because I thought he was worthy of more. I always loved his attitude and racing skill. What a brilliant interview. Well, thanks for the kind words, Triangle. And yes, Ligier, but I can't stop thinking about Thierry in a red Ferrari alongside Senna. Thank you for sending in those messages, and that's pretty much all we've got time for. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed hearing from Zhou, please follow the podcast. It's the fastest way to get our new episodes. Just hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you listen, and please leave us a rating or a review. We love reading them. Plus, why not check out the latest episode of the F1 Nation podcast? It's our review of the Canadian Grand Prix with none other than local boy Jacques Villeneuve. Search F1 Nation on your podcast app or Formula One's YouTube channel. F1 Beyond the Grid is produced by F1 and Audioboom Studios. Until next time, keep it flat out.